Hi, this is Jeroen Simons. I'm going to show you the Psp plugins I use for my drum sound, because a lot of people ask me, how did you do that? How did you mix that drum sound, Jeroen? So I will show you. I use a kick-in microphone, kick-out microphone, snare drum microphone. I use some kind of copies here of the original snare drum. I use a snare drum bass microphone. I use a tom and a floor drum microphone. 2 overhead microphones and a mono ribbon microphone. All microphones are SE Electronics, because I'm an SE Electronics artist. So we're now going to talk about the Psp plugins I use. I will go very fast because I use a lot here, so I will not make the video too long. So on the kick-in I use the Vkick. You can see the setting what I do. Also with the saturation. Then I use the fat presser. You can see at the attack here, release, small ratio. Kick out, I use the Vkick again. Also saturation, also the fat presser, with a little bit lower ratio. On the main snare drum I use the mono infini strip. I start with the gain, or in this case the preamp section. Then I have the filters, a gate, again the fat presser, the retro cue to call it something, and at last the saturator. As a reverb I use the Psp Easy Verb. I have the wooden room setting. You can see use a little bit like 31% of it. Then a copy of the snare is the snare smash. So I smash it with 2 fat presses. It's the first one. This is the second one. Look at this. Then again I use the MCQ or the McQ. Then I made another copy and I used the Psp Hertz Rider 2. You see that I shift the notes down to have a very like no sound. Again the MCQ, the McQ. Then the bass drum snare drum microphone. I use on this track the Psp Old Timer and I use very high ratio time. Then again the MCQ. And for little glue or put it something in the room, I used the Psp 2445. Tom 1, I used the Psp Fat Presser. That's the second one. The first one is going to be the retro cue. And I used the high pass filter, then at around 125 Hz boost. Here a cut around 500 Hz and here a boost at 6K with the saturation. Then of course the Psp Fat Presser. That's high ratio. The floor tom. Again I start with the Psp Veto cue. Again a dip and here a boost, also with the saturation. Psp Fat Presser. The release settings are calculated into the tempo of the song. Let's see, the overheads are buzzed together into a overhead group. I bend the overhead left to 100% left and 100% right. So I use the Psp Infini strip. I start with the preamp, the basic filtering, optopressor for a little bit of classic sound. Same with the retro cue. Then I use the limiter, a little bit width, and I end with the de-esser. After that I use the Psp 2445 for a little bit like room sound. placing the whole object in one room. The mono ribbon mic. I use again the PSP Infinistrip. It's the mono version. I start with the basic filtering, preamp, opto, pressor, de-esser, then the opto limiter, and I end with the master control. Then again the PSP 2445. A little bit more of a mix. And I have used here the 60s plate. So there is some kind of relation with ribbon and 60s maybe in some way. Alright. Drums total. I use the Psp Saturation. I start with that a little bit like a mix. So I use 16%. So a little bit of coloring. I use the Mastering 1 preset. Then the Precursor 2. Then again the Psp 2445 because I'm a big fan of it. And I end this track with a Psp Xenon. And then I have a drums New York compression group track that is parallel. You can see at the attack and release settings. The ratio is 4:1, but this is my second compressor, and my first compressor is the Psp Oldtimer ME. For higher ratio, take a little bit. Auto setting on. Yeah. So this was my video about Psp audio plugins I use on this track. I hope you dig the drum sound, because for me it was very fun recording it. I'll see you later. Bye bye.